This is the Brewers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The good times keep rolling on for your Milwaukee Brewers as they find a way to get it done for their not one, not two, not even their third, but their seventh straight win of this streak. A 5-2 win over the Philadelphia Phillies, sweeping them on their way next up to play the Cincinnati Reds. Lots to get down to with this win for your Brewers. Jose Quintana back on the mound for Milwaukee. The bullpen was rested and they responded, and Christian Yelich, not all good news for the Brewers as they do win. We'll talk about his injury and exactly how that transpired as the Brewers beat the Phillies 5-2, now 32, and 28 on the season. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST. My name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon_Snide and follow all of my work over at WTMJ.com. As always, thank you for making Locked On Brewers your first listen each and every day. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions, all welcomed on the program throughout the course of the show. We'll get to all of it as the Brewers win their seventh game in a row, a come from behind 5-2 win over the Philadelphia Phillies on the road. That's probably the biggest thing, is on the road. This Brewers team finding a way to win again on the road, now 14-18 on the road. Let's get real quick to our scoring summary brought to you today by wonderful Pistachios. The Phillies getting on Jose Quintana early, a JT Realmuto single to center, scored Trey Turner. That would take a 1-0 Philly lead into the second, where Kyle Schwarber would reach on an infield single. That would plate another run for the Phillies. That would leave it at 2-0. Fifth inning was interesting. The Brewers had more than one chances. They got one with Chourio grounding into a fielder's choice to third. That would score Joey Ortiz. And then it would go into the seventh inning. And before we get any further discussing what happened in the seventh inning, let's get to your turning point in the Brewers' 5-2 win over the Philadelphia Phillies.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
The seventh inning proved to be, in my opinion, the turning point for this game. It turns out to be the determining factor of this game. It was a bad route in left field there by Wilson. That led with the Caleb Durbin leadoff double. Then it would go to a 4-pitch walk to Bryce Terrain. And that's where Chourio would have the fielder's choice. And he would beat the throw to first. It would score a run. The game would be tied. And then the error on Trey Turner would allow the game to be tied. And then would come Jake Bauers. He is going to be the player of the game for me today as well. Jake Bauers doubling to right. That would score Contreras and Jackson Chourio. The Brewers would take a 4-2 lead at that point. Later in the ninth inning, Bryce Terrain would then single to right field. That would score Joey Ortiz. That would give the Brewers all they needed in the 5-2 win over the Philadelphia Phillies. Their seventh in a row, now 32-28 on the season. Michael over on YouTube leading us off. Great win for the sweep. An upcoming loss is inevitable, but I feel like the Brewers now have more confidence and swagger to respond better to losses. They have now, I think we're at the point where they've crawled themselves out of that hole that I have been talking about and playing around 500 and fallen 3 games under 500 just over a week ago. And now 4 games up above the 500 mark, and a very, 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 once again, winnable series against the Cincinnati Reds at Great American Ballpark, where the Brewers were 5-4 just a year ago. An inevitable loss, sure. You're not going to obviously win from here on out for the rest of the season, but it's imperative that this Brewers team going forward doesn't drop 2 out of 3, here and there consistently like we had seen in the beginning portion of the season, and instead start stacking these wins. Now, the line is 2 out of 3 without a doubt. However, I win every game that you can possibly win. I understand going 2 out of 3 is kind of the standard, but again, in the National League Central, it's tough. You got the Reds, again, who aren't necessarily playing as hot as the Brewers. No team in the National League Central right now is. However, the Cubs keep winning games. The St. Louis Cardinals are winning games. So you have to maintain pace with the National League Central. We discussed the Brewers' schedule is tougher throughout the course of June. And they've proved me wrong. I said there was a chance that they might slip double-digit games back in the division, and that was about 2 or 3 days before this win streak for this Brewers team, and they have now shot 4 games over 500, and just a remarkable bounce back for this Milwaukee Brewers team. Give a lot of credit to manager Pat Murphy, pulling all the right strings at all the right times, the bullpen getting the much-needed rest, Christian Yelich coming through offensively for this Milwaukee Brewers. If there's one bad thing to talk about this game, it's the injury that Christian Yelich sustained early on. I believe it was the first inning, hit by pitch on the right hand. He would eventually exit. Eric Haas would pinch hit for him, and that would be it for Christian Yelich. So that would be something to monitor. But again, I don't know if it's serious. I don't know if x-rays have been done yet, but you hate to see it because as Christian Yelich has gotten going for this Milwaukee Brewers team, so have they. All of them have. Rhys Hoskins, we saw it yesterday. 2, 3 run bombs. William Contreras stacking up good plate appearances. Jackson Chourio, again, with a couple of hits today for him in that leadoff spot. So it's unfortunate. That's something to monitor for Christian Yelich, but we'll see what happens going forward as the Brewers will shift their focus to the Cincinnati Reds. Our everydayer, Nick, I wasn't thinking at the beginning of May to have 2 sweeps, let alone against the best record in the National League. Phillies, awesome. Yeah, I was not expecting. I knew Boston wasn't playing their best when they came to American Family Field for that quick series against the Brewers before the Brewers hit the road. You knew that was a winnable series. I wasn't thinking it was a sweep, and the way that they did it, it was even better. And then they hit the road, and then you're thinking, okay, you won against Boston. You swept Boston at American Family Field. Now don't let it go to waste and go to Philly and drop 2 out of 3 or get swept. And the Brewers have done the complete opposite. And I had put the pressure on them. I have said that this schedule, this 3-week stretch for this Milwaukee Brewers team was going to be the turning point of their season. They were, again, hovering over 500, dipping down a game or 2 under 500, going a game or 2 above 500, then falling back down. They were kind of riding a roller coaster. And when you got like the Phillies and the Braves and the Padres and the Cardinals and the Cubs, this part of the schedule was, to me, is going to be the turning point. And the Brewers have answered that bell. Like they have, you got to give a lot of credit where credit is due. And this team in the first 2 months of the season, wasn't playing great defense. They weren't aggressive at the plate. They were missing on opportunities early in games against starting pitching rotations. And they weren't able to play that situational baseball where we saw a year ago. They weren't able to get on base and create havoc on the base pass like they have been during this 7-game win streak. And now, the wheels are beginning to churn for this Milwaukee Brewers team. And not only are they winning like we saw on Saturday, 17-7, again, wasn't going to happen every night, but today, a come from behind game. This is only the Brewers' 5th come from behind win of the season, only their 5th of the season. And it's their 4th during this 7-game win streak. This is the team I think everybody was waiting on. This was the team. Scrappy, no nonsense, playing small ball, playing good defense, allowing your pitching to kind of dictate the outcome of games, allowing your bullpen to come in. How good has Abner Uribe been for this Milwaukee Brewers team? Nick Mears has been overworked. He gets the win today. And we'll go through the starting pitching numbers here and the bullpen pitching numbers in a minute. But the bullpen during this part of the season where they were taxed a lot, early on, have now kind of allowed them to even up in the starting rotation. Jose Quintana on the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers after he got reinstated back from the IL. Tyler Alexander, which a lot of you were calling for to be DFA'd. He was DFA'd, in fact, to make room for Jose Quintana. Not even his best stuff today, Jose Quintana. 5 innings pitched. He allowed 4 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned. He walked 4 batters and struck out 3. He threw 82 total pitches. Only 48 of them were strikes. So unlike Jose Quintana, but that's expected for the guy that's been, coming back from injury. Nick Mears coming in, 1 inning pitch, no hits, no runs. Jared Kenning, 1 inning pitch. He allowed a double to Trey Turner. He left him stranded at second base, no runs. Abner Uribe, complete shutdown. 7 pitches thrown, 7 of them strikes. Trevor McGill in the 9th, he allowed that 1 hit. Other than that, Trevor McGill shuts it down. I believe that is save number 11 for Trevor McGill as the Brewers beat the Phillies today for their 7th in a row, 5-2. Jacob on YouTube, we got to keep this momentum up, headed into Cincy. No reason to fall to the Cincinnati Reds tomorrow. At minimum, 2 out of 3 I'm expecting a sweep. I am. There's nobody in really in Major League Baseball right now that's playing as hot as this Milwaukee Brewers team, and they're clicking on all cylinders. You hope the injury to Christian Yelich isn't serious, and we'll, wait and time will determine for that. However, your pitching is rested. You're getting starting pitchers back into your rotation. Jose Quintana, hopefully Brandon Woodruff follows suit. Freddie Peralta will be on the mound this week in Cincinnati. Aaron Savali will be on the mound this week in Cincinnati. I do not believe they named a Game 3 starter. DL Hall has been fantastic. He opened up the game, I believe, on Friday night for the Milwaukee Brewers. And everything just seems to kind of be clicking defensively. I mean, the gems, Daz Cameron in the ninth inning, catching the ball up against the wall and getting the first out in the ninth inning, which is always huge for Trevor McGill. Bryce Terrain with a couple of defensive plays at the second base position to kind of lock things down for this Milwaukee Brewers. Jackson Chourio has been great at the shortstop position, and you're getting timely hitting. Jake Bauers coming off the bench, not even an everyday player, comes in off the bench. He's your player of the game today. Again, brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios with that pinch hitting 2-run RBI double in the seventh. Coming off and just doing what needs to be done. And this is exactly the reason this Brewers team won 93 games a year ago. And it's the reason that they now have won 7 in a row, now 4 games over 500 at the tough part of their schedule. We'll see if they can keep it going. Your reaction still being poured in on YouTube. We'll get to all of it, including the things that you may be talking about tomorrow. That's all coming up shortly right after this. The Locked On Brewers postcast today is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both nutritious and delicious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. One of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller for longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for those busy days, whether you're on the run from running your kids to practice, picking them up from practice, going to school, in between meetings. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Again, guys, I was just at Pick and Save this morning out where I live. You can find them at least where I live, out in the produce area, in the snacking area, in between aisles. It is super easy, super convenient, and healthy. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Once again, that website, visit wonderfulpistachios.com. The Milwaukee Brewers getting the 7th straight win in a row, 5-2 over the Phillies, sweeping them on their way to Cincinnati. Again, lots of reaction over on YouTube. Jerome, Brewers need to take the series from the Cardinals, Padres, and Giants to at least gain ground in the wild card. And this is why I talked about, this is before the win streak, I talked about this part of the schedule was going to be your turning point one way or another. It's tough, right? And in between that, you have, the longest home stand for the Milwaukee Brewers. I believe it's 10 games. So the opportunities are going to be there for the Milwaukee Brewers. Hopefully that's something that they can grab onto and like you said, gain some ground on the, not only in the NL Central, but in the NL wild card as well, because as we talked about, it's tough. It's tough, especially in a very, very top-heavy national league. Ben, over on YouTube, they feel like they are playing for wins now, not just fumbling to a lucky win. Optimism is high right now. The swagger's back. The swagger for this Milwaukee Brewers team is back. We're seeing it. We had talked about it before in a couple of losses. It just didn't look like they were having fun. Even when they would win games here and there in between a few losses, it just didn't look like this team was having any fun, like there was no energy, regardless of doing something good or bad. And that's been flipped for this Milwaukee Brewers team. And obviously winning helps that, but it's the way that this team has won. You look at a 2-3 win, a 3-2 win over the Boston Red Sox. Then you look at a 17-7 win where you absolutely dominate the Phillies on Saturday. And then you look at today where you come from behind, down 2 runs in that 5th inning, going into that 5th inning, and you turn that around into a win. Only your 5th come from behind win of the season, and more importantly, your 4th during this win streak. So they're starting to figure out ways on how they can win and kind of get some of that back for, going forward into a tough part of your schedule. DMH, bringing some news. X-rays came back negative for Christian Yelich, so right hand contusion seems to be the case. Again, we'll see how Yelich responds, obviously, after tonight. We'll see if we see him in the lineup going forward at the Reds over there in Cincinnati. So shout out to DMH for providing that information on Christian Yelich, who was hit by a pitch early in the game on his right hand. He would eventually exit the game, but like DMH said, x-rays seem to be coming back negative. RB over on YouTube. Can't believe we took the Phillies. I was hoping for one of at least 3 of those games, at least against them up until now. I was hoping for 2. I'll be honest. My expectation was don't get swept. That was my expectation. Obviously, I was I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised, but I was a little surprised that they swept the Boston Red Sox. And again, how they did it. And once again, coming from behind in that series as well in a few of those games. And then the way that they have done it against the Philadelphia Phillies, I think is huge. And it's a team, you got to preface it. They don't have their best player, one of their best players in Bryce Harper. I think one of their best players might be Kyle Schwarber, or the best player is in Kyle Schwarber. But you win Friday 6-2, you win Saturday 17-7, and then you win today 5-2, and you have to come from behind and win today. Now you're 5 games back in the National League Central. Some of that is still unsettled, but you're starting to chip away and you're starting to do things. And more importantly, you're just getting back to the brand of baseball that we've grown accustomed to over the year plus. And guys are getting back into their groove as well. Jackson Chourio, Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Terrain, William Contreras. And again, it all begins and ends with Christian Yelich. And that's why this injury is so big, as we're getting reports that the x-ray was negative. You hope Christian Yelich can get back into that lineup for this Milwaukee Brewers team, because he is just that good for this team. And he has been playing at an all-star level over the last 2 weeks or so, and has completely flipped this Brewers season upside down in a positive way for them to kind of get bounced back into the standings, 32-28 on the season after the 5-2 come from behind win today to sweep the Phillies in the city of brotherly love. Lots of your reactions still being poured over on YouTube. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Charles, no time to sit on our laurels with the Reds coming up. There is no reason. And shout out to Charles. Charles is an everydayer on the Locked On Brewers postcast. I read all of his comments. I see all of the comments. I appreciate your loyalty to the program. It means a tremendous amount to me. So thank you. There's no reason for this to stop for the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm expecting 2 out of 3. I want to sweep against the Cincinnati Reds, a team that's, again, playing sort of like the Brewers. We're up and down. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. They lost once again to the Cubs, or they're losing to the Cubs right now. I anticipate they're going to lose that game down 7-2 in the 7th inning in Chicago. So I think 2 out of 3 is the standard, regardless. But I think I almost want to say I expect a sweep. I don't want to go too far and get too far ahead of my skis, but you're better right now than the Cincinnati Reds. Outside of Yelich, you're healthy. You're getting guys back, and we'll see where Christian Yelich is with the hand contusion. But you're playing good defense. You're playing good offense. You have good approach at the plate. You're getting on the base pass. You're running around. And life looks to be back into that Milwaukee Brewers clubhouse, where at times this season you were kind of curious if something had happened. DMH also on YouTube. Pretty underrated how Bauers has been as a Brewer. Happy he is on our team. There was one point, I want to say about 2 to 3 weeks ago, I said he might be your best hitter. And this was before Christian Yelich took off, and where Jackson Chourio now with a couple of hits again today. I had multiple hits in each of these last 3 games in Philadelphia. William Contreras as well. I said there might be an argument to be made that Jake Bauers was your best hitter up until obviously this point in the season. He has been huge. And guys like that are who you need on a team if your aspirations are to go and make a playoff run. Every team that you look at has won a World Series or goes deep into a postseason or wins a division, they have guys like that they can plug and play. And look, Jake Bauers has played first base. He's played left field. He's coming off the bench to pitch hit. And today, providing the turning point of the game, the 2-run RBI double. And then I think he's the player of the game just for what he did in that game, where the Brewers eventually tied it up off of an error from Trey Turner, a rare E6 from Trey Turner. But the Brewers cash in. And that is the thing. The Brewers cash in. How many times have we said breaks have been just not there for the Milwaukee Brewers? Like, they just haven't been able to get a lot of breaks. This 7-game win streak, that has been the opposite. As the Brewers beat the Phillies 5-2, sweeping that 3-game series, now 32-28 on the season. My thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in and always making the Locked On Brewers postcast part of your day each and every day. We'll get it back tomorrow once again as the Brewers head to Cincinnati to take on the Reds. Don't forget to follow the show on Twitter. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, that like up button over there on YouTube as well, and get all of our content wherever you get podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon_Snide. We'll pick it up again tomorrow as the Brewers take on the Reds. And as always, win, lose, or draw, it is always go Brewers.